welcome to The Pulse. This is Akil Kalfani. I'm here in Trinidad today, and I'm interviewing and with a great Baba, Brother Kafa Kambon, and we're here at his place. He's going to tell us a little bit about it, and we're going to have an opportunity to really share and get an understanding of what it's like to be in Trinidad and what the struggles have been to keep the African presence forward and move the agenda.
Yeah.
Baba, welcome to The Pulse.
Hey, happy to be on The Pulse.
Yes,
happy to be on The Pulse. It's wonderful that we can do these things in different countries, different settings, and have it go around like that. So I'm happy to learn about The Pulse, and from now on I want to see more of it.
Today, you already heard part of this, but I am here in Trinidad and Tobago, and I am with none other than Mama Zakia. And so, Mama Zakia, welcome to The Pulse.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We are really happy to be part of the program.
Yes, and I'm excited to be here in your house.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and gracing our house with your presence. Thank you. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Emancipation Support Committee and what you all do?
Okay, well, the Emancipation Support Committee was formed in 1992. It is, you could say, a stepchild of some kind of the Black Power movement, which reached its zenith in Trinidad and Tobago in 1970, because it was actually formed by a number of people who were part of that uprising, you could say, in Trinidad and Tobago, that reached its zenith in 1970. And so a number of us, one of them was Lijiasu Omowale, and so the Emancipation Village, the place at what is formerly known as the Queen's Park Savannah, but where we construct what is known as the Emancipation Village every year. It's named after one of the founders of this group, Lijiasu Omowale. So if you come here at Emancipation time, you will find that the center of activities is the Lijiasu Omowale Emancipation Village.
So, brother, can you tell us something about the Pan-Africanist movement here, and is Pan-Africanism an important tenet here in Trinidad?
Yes, it is. It will not be as widespread as it was in the Garvey days, but because of the Emancipation commemoration, which is organized, a number of people are part of it, but the core of it is organized by the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. And that has managed to keep that spirit of Pan-Africanism alive in the country. It's not the only thing, of course. You have many Pan-African organizations, and then you have Pan-African expression, even if it's not called Pan-Africanism, because some of the traditions of our people have survived in different ways, in spiritual organizations, in different kinds of community celebrations that you have in different parts of Trinidad and Tobago, so that Africanness is not dead here. You know, it is not recognized in the way it should be. The boldest expression of it is what this organization does with the commemoration of emancipation on an annual basis. But you find there are small religious communities in many parts of the country which are built on our African spiritual traditions. That is quite strong in Trinidad especially, and Tobago in a different way as well. It's a twin island state. And you have people who are very, very strong in taking up that belief system in different ways. So there's a strong foundation here. The very first Pan-African conference, as you know, was called by citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Henry Sylvester Williams. CLR James is another person who was an important part of the Pan-African movement. Even our first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, his scholarship was very well recognized within the Pan-African movement. That's before he became Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. That was in his days as a scholar. So Trinidad and Tobago does have a fairly distinct presence within the global Pan-African movement. The organization to which I belong now, which I was a founding member of as well, the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago, founded in 1992, was an outcome of what was the Black Power movement here. The Black Power movement in Trinidad and Tobago was ideologically different from what it was in the United States in more than one sense. The first is on the question of ethnicity, because the Black Power movement was really a movement seeking revolutionary change in all of Trinidad and Tobago. We were not in a situation like in the United States where you had a minority community seeking to gain its proper human status within a white-dominated, oppressive society. That's not what we had here. Our society was dominated by white power as well, because even though the majority of people in this society were Africans and Indians, those two groups almost evenly balanced in terms of numbers, but those groups were both oppressed by a small white minority, which was just about 4% of the population at that time in the 60s, and when this rebellion started to really rise up in Trinidad and Tobago, or at least that part of it that was caused the Black Power movement, because before that you had rebellions at different times, mainly coming out of the labor movement. But that majority population was in a situation where the commanding heights of the economy were completely controlled by Europeans. The education system was really a miseducation system, because it was pushing European ideas on us, it was pushing white supremacy on us. Unfortunately, that education system has not yet undergone the kind of change that it needs to undergo. There have been some reforms here and there, but we are just tinkering at an official level, just tinkering with that education system so far. It is extremely colonial still, and even in its most recent incarnations, there has not been the daring to change that. So it is one of the spaces that we, as the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago, has thought of it as very important to have an intervention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalfani, and we welcome you here to Trinidad and Tobago and to our secretariat. My name is Zakia Uzuma Wadada. I'm the Executive Chair of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. I've been with the organization from 2005, and it has been my pleasure to serve with CAFRA, who is now our Director of Regional and Pan-African Affairs, but at my time of joining the organization, he was the chairman. So much of the work that we are doing now is continuing, and much of his vision and his hard work for the organization over many years. And so the mission continues, and I stand on his shoulders as we push forward to continue to grow and develop the Emancipation Support Committee and fulfill its objectives of transformation of our society, so that we can raise the consciousness of our brothers and sisters, so that they can participate in the process of development in a way that is more equitable and, of course, more meaningful, and would improve their well-being of themselves and their children.
So if you had to say one thing about what you hope to contribute, what will you say is your contribution to transforming this community and the young folks? How do you see, what do you want to do to make that happen?
Yeah, I really would wish African in our society to understand themselves, understand who they are, understand their power as beings, understand their history, and be able to pull from that all the energy that is necessary for them to cope with what exists in the society today, and so that we can respond to it in a much more positive and meaningful way. You know, if you don't understand yourselves, then you're not able to interpret your presence in a particular environment, and therefore how you respond to it, and therefore and that you don't recognize your own power to also determine how that environment impacts you. And therefore we just become what you would call sort of victims and become subjected to that which we're exposed, rather than being able to take control of what is happening in our own space and how we respond to it, and how we can manage and still be successful, or still go ahead and seek our well-being in that particular environment. So it is this really understanding of self and the full, and that is from a physical point of view, from a spiritual point of view, being healthy, you know, in all these different aspects of our being, you know, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, you know, so that we can respond better to the situation in which we find ourselves. You know, I think in too many cases we become victims of the environment and the systems in which we find ourselves as people, you know, and in many cases it's to the detriment of not all of us, but to quite a large number of us.
I learned recently from a conversation we had about a statue, an African statue and monument.
Yes.
That's in, did you call it
The
Liberation?
Yoruba Village.
Yoruba Village. Can you tell us a little bit about the Yoruba Village, the statue, and how that came into being?
Right, so the Yoruba Village, and I mean, it's good that you're making those connections, because the Yoruba Village is actually a community that is considered an at-risk community in our society. It is, you know, a community that has been neglected, it is underserved, but it is also the community from which many of our cultural traditions were born. And this community was originally called the Yoruba town or Yoruba village. But very few people in Trinidad and Tobago were aware of that, and it was always just called East Dry River or behind the bridge. And those words, the connotations that went with it, was it a space that, you know, maybe up to today, some people don't even want to go there, you know, because they fear that it is not a safe space. It is where, you know, we see high levels of crime, and of course there's a lot of, you know, it is evident that the community is not as developed as it should be. So we began to tell the story of the Yoruba village, and for people to understand the history of that particular space, so that again the connection that they make with it is not just, okay, a community where we have problems and challenges and poverty and crime, but it is a community with a very rich history, and a community which has contributed in a very significant way to the culture of Trinidad and Tobago. So we started to do a drum festival there annually as part of that process of education and promotion of the Yoruba village space. And we were really happy this year in 2022, following a visit of the the former governor of Osun State, when he came to the Emancipation celebrations in 2018. We did take him to the square, and he was, you know, quite happy to have been in that particular space and have that kind of connection with the continent. And he had made a contribution for something to be done for the square. And we worked with another local company, the East Port of Spain Development Company, and we were able to do this beautiful monument, which was unveiled in this year as part of this year's Drum Festival. The monument is that of a woman, a mother. She can be seen as a spiritual mother, and she's holding a calabash in her hand representing food to feed the nation, to feed our spirits, that whole idea of motherhood and nourishing and nurturing. And then there is the man who is the Baba, or the father. He is over her with his drum, providing that rhythm. You know, rhythm is extremely important to us as a people.
In the Emancipation Support Committee has an annual African History Quiz, which is open to all the schools in Trinidad and Tobago, but it's not part of the official curriculum, so it is up to each school to decide whether they want to be a part of it or not. So individual principals, and they need to get some teacher who's going to prepare the students for it, but we prepare the documentation for it every year. So we have produced a very good set of documentation that could be repackaged in different ways and hopefully become a part of the formal system. Fortunately, we have been able to make a small penetration with what we call our annual African History Quiz.
Right.
And that's in the secondary schools, and in the primary schools we have a spoken word competition. So that deals with, could be poetry, short story, you know, it could be calypso, but literature that would have a certain impact. That's in the primary level schools. So it's nice, easy for the children to absorb, and that is a performance competition.
Okay.
Whereas the history quiz is the knowledge. You question the knowledge that you learn in the booklets that we produce. We don't, because we can't give them 10 history books to read different things in, so we pull the information together and create a new set of information every year that becomes part of that quiz. So those are the things that we do in terms of reaching minds. We also have a radio program. It's a weekly radio program. It's called Indaba, Where Knowledge Grows, and that is every Wednesday night. We have that program, and it is reaching a wider and wider listenership all the time. So our focus is really on reaching the minds of African people.
What would you say is, if someone asked you, you know, after you have joined the ancestors,
Yes.
what would you want to be the legacy that you've left for people to come after?
It's something that I really don't think about. I got involved not for any self-promotion. I got involved in doing something that I believe in. It has brought me some recognition locally and to some extent internationally. But I just look at what needs to be done, and I try to play my part in doing what needs to be done. There will be some legacy, you know, in a way, because I was part of that Black Power movement and I think that's where it would lie mainly, because I was one of the well-known figures within that movement at the time. And now I was one of the founding members of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago, and I chaired it for a while as well. I wasn't the first chairman of it. It was a brother called Lij Yasu Omowale, and he and I would join chairs, and then he joined the ancestors and I became the chairperson, and now I passed it on to, over the past few years, to Sister Zakia Uzoma Wadada.
Mama Zakia, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate your time, and I'll be back here in Trinidad soon if my invitation is open.
It is always open, and we want you here for 2023 Emancipation celebration.
Okay,
Yes.
I look forward to it. Well, Baba, I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for the insights to the organization, and so that we have the opportunity to share and talk to people about it. We're going to definitely spread the word, and I hope to be back to enjoy the celebration with you in a very soon time, August the 1st.
August the 1st. If you're not here next August the 1st, you're not a real African. You see, you're not going to see people from the continent have come and you're not going to see anything like this outside of the continent of Africa.
Okay, okay.
Because you see, they brought our bodies here, but you know, but our minds came with us. They tried to steal the minds. They brought the bodies and tried to steal the minds, but they failed.
I see.
That's right.
Well, with that, we're going to leave it there. This is Dr. Kalfani, and you're here joining us on The Pulse.